Hi everybody, Leslie here, back in my craft lab, and I've got a massive pile of cards for you today, but this is a technique video. These ones are just a quick little bonus, not really the main technique, but all of these are created using my brand new stamp plate, which I showed in a What Did I Get video the other day. These are all variations on an idea, and they all look completely different, even though it's the same background stamp. Some are really subtle. Hopefully you can see the background well on that one. And some are much bolder and obviously much brighter. You could do this with any background stamp. You do need a stamp press and you do need the stamp plate. I'll show you the one I've been using in the video. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, share if you've got crafty friends. I know we always ask, but it really does help all of us little creators, and it doesn't cost you a penny, it costs you half a second of your time. So thank you, and let's get on with it. Today I am going to be using my brand new, haven't taken it out of the packaging yet, 5x7 stamping plate. So this is Creative Craft products, so that means it's from CraftStash. My understanding of this is that it is basically the same material as a high quality clear stamp. So I don't think it says, but whether it's photopolymer or acrylic or silicone, I'm not entirely certain. It does not say on the packaging. Feels very similar to when you get a brand new stamp in that it's sticky. I think there's a ton of different techniques that I can do with this, and one that I wanted to try was just using it to hold stencils. I am actually just going to stick my card shut because I'm not working on a flat panel. I'm working onto my actual card base. This is Time for Tea Designs. I've not used this one yet. It's called Spring Mandala. So what I'm going to do is line it up so that the pattern is roughly in place, top to bottom. And as you can see, the stamping plate will grab on to the stencil. Now, there's no overhang top and bottom, but hopefully you can see it's sort of stuck here side to side. I've just grabbed my worn lipstick Distress Oxide. This is actually meant to be a bar mat, so the sort that they put drinks on in at bars. Kind of grabs it and then it doesn't move, and it works for any shape or size. So if you've got oval ink pads or funny shaped ones, it's still, they don't slide around on it. So you can do one-handed and not have to hold it. So I'm just going to just do some ink blending. I've just gone for pink today. One-handed, I'm not holding the stencil down. We'll see how well this works. I'm just going for a simple one colour blend. So there's nothing on my stencil, there's nothing holding it except the sticky mat, and it's only holding it a tiny bit on the edges. And I'd say that that's come out pretty good. It's actually so sticky, it's not that easy to get it off. I moved my glass mat, look. There we go, pretty much perfect blend, no tape needed. So yes, this works. This has been out for quite some time, but I know that Altenew have released some, and I think Waffle Flower. But obviously, if you're in the UK, they're quite expensive to get the American products sometimes. This was, I think it was £8.99. I think I paid £8.09 because I'm in the VIP club, so I got my 10% discount. It will hold a 6x6 stencil, which is what this is. Clean up would just be as you'd clean any silicone stamp. This is just my very old tatty stamp chamois, which is putting more dirt onto it than I'm taking off. Of course it is, because it's filthy. My understanding is it should keep some of this sticky tackiness. It might lose some of it, but it was grabbing on really quite hard. The difference between this stamping plate and this, which is a gel press, mine happens to be a 6x6 inch one. And I just did a quick check on Amazon, and this one at 6x6 inch is £18.99, so £19. And I checked the 5x7, which would be the same price of this, is £20. So this is a much cheaper option if you're a card maker and you're going to use it with inks to do similar techniques. This is the difference. The gel press is much, much thicker. It's at least, I'd say it's probably at least 4 times the thickness. And this is too thick to do any of the techniques in a stamp platform that I'm going to show you, I'm going to use my stamping platform because I'm going to use a big background stamp. So I think it'll be easier with this in here. So this happens to be, I think it's the Hampton Art Stamp Perfect. So I've taken my mat out of the bottom and put my stamping plate in there. This is the Crafter's Companion Magnificent Butterflies, and I've only just got this. So this is a brand new stamp. Interesting, it's stuck to my brand new stamp. So what I want to do is put my ink on here, not on here. So I've got my Catherine Pooler, this is Blackjack. So it's like a really nice dark grey black colour. And what I'm going to do is put this all over my plate. Now, this is quite a new ink and it's really juicy. So I may just use my brayer just to even it out. And then I'm going to close my stamp onto it. And then hopefully my stamp is going to pick up all that ink on. I might have too much ink on there. No, I think we've done quite well there. Considering how much ink is on there, I think that's worked quite well. So now what I'm going to do is, so that I've got the reverse, I'm going to put this in here and then smooth over the top. I think I put too much ink on my plate, but let's see. How cool is that? So that's now the reverse of that. It's not going to be perfect because, like I say, I had way too much ink on here. And I can still see the outline of the butterflies on there. So I'm curious now. I'm very curious if I can get it to lift any more off and get a fainter print. We'll see. Let's have a go. I'm also going to get that excess ink off that edge as well. And if this doesn't work, I'm just going to use the back side of this to close that on and get the ink off that. There we go. So this is what I was saying. I ended up with 2 prints because I had so much ink on there. So that would be completely usable, obviously on a smaller card maybe, or it's quite interesting that how I've picked it up off there. I am going to use another piece to get the ink off here. So we've already kissed that and got the ink on there. And I think I'm going to give this another try with some Oxide ink. That's 3 prints. One, obviously really dark, but I think that's going to make it really fun. But that's just because of the ink I use. You could have done this in any colour. That's from the stamp that we've kissed it to, so we didn't waste the ink. My dog talking. And then we've got this really faint one as well. So I think I'm going to give that a try with a nice bright Oxide ink as well to see if how it works. So that was all with this really nice dark Blackjack. So just because I've still got actually loads of ink on my brayer, I thought I'm going to have a go at doing it with a bit less ink and see what happens. So that's just using the ink that was left on my brayer, and I think I could probably get another print off there, but I'm not going to for now. I've already got worn lipstick out, so let's give it a quick try with that. And I think I'll probably have to do the same thing and spread it out with my brayer a bit. Feels like a better amount of ink. And this is the 10cm brayer from CraftStash. It's the one that's in their own range. I've got a little bit of black still on there, I think. I think it's come off the stamp, but I'm not going to worry too much. I don't think it will matter. I am just going to get a piece of scrap just to rub it over so that I don't end up covered in ink. Yeah, there was still some black on my stamp. Hadn't cleaned that off very well. But you know what? That's actually another really cool background effect. And again, I'm pretty certain there's enough on here to get another print off it. So if you've used a gel press before, this is quite similar. It is not the same. It's not the same consistency as a gel press. It's much thinner. I don't know how well it would work with acrylic paint. On a gel press, I've only ever used acrylic paint, and I know you can use them with ink. So that's our second print. So I'll show you against the first one. Much paler, but certainly still there. And I'm looking at this and thinking there's probably another one on there. Rather than use the pink that's on there to stamp a separate card, I'm going to stamp that back onto the plate and see if it will stick to it. And then we'd have a darker pink and then maybe a paler pink. So let's see if that will transfer back over to our plate. I don't know if it will or not. We will see. I'm just giving it a good rub all over. And let's see what happens. Yeah, I think it has pretty much transferred some back on. So let's do the same thing. And there we go. Yeah, so you can see that I still had some of that dye ink on there. But again, that's all from one set of inking still. That's another 3 backgrounds. And I think there's still enough on there to do another one. So I don't know, am I going to get a print off that or a print off that? I think I could probably get both. Go for it, stick that there, and then do this. And we'll see which side's best, whether it's the stamp side or the plate side. If you like the really pale subtle, I've got that on the back. And then I've got the butterflies on the front. You could use these all as they are. But I want to show you the reason that I wanted to be able to do this. But I'm going to let it dry first. So if you've been following me for a little while, you'll know that sometimes I make mistakes and I like to show you them because you might make the same mistake. So I very quickly realised that I couldn't do what I wanted to do with my cut down panels. And I'd already moved my stamp, so I couldn't even do it with the panels that were larger that I'd lined up in this corner. I've already solved it so that I can still use these panels how I want to. And this is sort of the look I'm going for. But I'm going to show you how you should do it. So, and I will show you the fix for if you've done what I've done. It'll become obvious in a minute what I mean. So I've cut myself some card that's big enough to drop into the bottom like I was doing to start with. And so that I can put that in this corner and then I can use it to line it up. I'm just for a moment just going to redo my pink backgrounds. This one's going to have an offset because I haven't dropped it in very well. I'm going to let those dry and I need to clean this off and I'll be back when I've cleaned it off. So at this point, if I wanted to use embossing powder on the next bit, I would have to make sure this is super, super dry. So because this is Distress Oxide, it'll stay wet for a little bit longer. I'm just going to use my VersaFine, so my Black Onyx VersaFine. So it doesn't need to be super duper dry. Now, I want to get my butterfly outline on top of that, but of course this stamp is the opposite way round to this background. It would be backwards, so it wouldn't work. So what we're going to do is use VersaFine and do our kiss technique. So if you have say a little critter or a bird or something and it's facing the wrong way for your stamp, so it's facing the wrong way for whatever card you want to do, this is how you would use this stamp press to get it facing in the opposite direction. So you ink up your stamp, transfer your ink onto this side. Now, because we're working with VersaFine, which is like an oil-based ink, it does dry a little bit. You can wet it and get it back off again, but you need to be reasonably quick doing this. I'm just making sure we've got it off, all transferred. For such a detailed image as this with the big black areas, I don't think I'll ever get it really spot on perfect. So now we know that this print was taken this way round. I can drop this back into this bottom corner and hopefully get it somewhere close to being lined up. I don't think it'll be perfect because I don't think I had it perfectly lined up in the bottom corner the first time round, but it's going to be close. And of course, I'm trying never to put my head on camera, so I can't get straight above. So my lining up is never as good when I'm filming as it is when I'm not filming. So let's see how close I got it. Pretty good. So that was what I was trying to do. Now, because I've used VersaFine on the top, and VersaFine Onyx Black is waterproof, once this is dried, I could come back in and use my brush, like a water brush, and just lift some of the colour out of the butterflies if I want to. So that's something we can do with that. And while we've got the ink on there, let's do the same on our paler one as well. Now you can see we've got our background filled in and our butterfly on top. Now, could I have just stamped that over the top? Yes, I could. On this one, can you see I've done it offset like a shadow effect? So I'm going to show you how to do that, and you can probably see it on this one as well. I've done the same. So I've got that, my butterflies are like a shadow effect. This was the panel that I'd done before. What I didn't realise was when I'd cut my panel down, how would I get the placement back? What I did to do those ones I just showed you was this. I trimmed my panel down so that my butterflies are hanging off the edge everywhere. So I can see where the edges of my butterflies are, and that's important. So I've only taken a little bit off. I've got myself a piece of acetate. This is really thick stuff that's come from some packaging that I saved from somewhere. So this is a nice thick piece of acetate. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my piece of paper. Push that into my bottom corner and make sure it's lined up with my edge. So that's lined up in this bottom corner. I know you can't see it because it's acetate. I'm going to sit that on there, and then just using the ink that I've got left from last time, I'm going to stamp that onto my acetate. And then I'm also going to put a tiny bit of washi tape on this side of my card, so the sticky's on the back at the moment. So now I can lift my acetate up, which is stuck to my plate. I've got enough of an impression on there that when I flip this over, so the ink's on the back, I'm trying not to stick my fingers in it, I can see to line up all around the edges. So you might not be able to see particularly well, but I can see like this butterfly's antenna and the body sticking out here, and I can see I've got that lined up. So I'm probably going to end up with some ink on my fingers pushing it down there. So the ink's on this side and my panel's that way on that side. So when I put that back into this corner, I can put some more washi tape on it if I want to, but just having one piece on to start with is useful. Just making sure it's still lined up. So I've just put another piece on that corner. So I won't get, obviously the print will miss, so I can always trim it down a little bit more. So now I can ink this stamp up again, stamp onto my stamp plate, Now, using my piece taped to my acetate, making sure I've got it back in those two corners. Oh, and I forgot, I've got ink on there. When I was doing those, I remembered that I had ink on there, and I took the acetate off because cleverly it comes off, but because I'd really smudged it, I didn't that time. So if your pattern goes off the edge, like mine did, I trimmed mine down to make sure it did. That would be one way for you to do it. And you could now even try taking your tape off and picking up anything you've missed off the corners. I think that wasn't even on anything. And the same here. I think I've ripped my card though. I've ripped my card, so I'll have to trim that off anyway. So I've got an offset. I didn't do it particularly well, but you get the idea. And this is what I'm saying. It's so hard for me not to get my head on camera and show you anything that involves lining up. But actually, I quite like that. I quite like that it actually looks like a shadow. So obviously, if I hadn't wiped the ink off that, I could have reused the acetate to stick it on and redo another one. I smudged the ink, forgot, covered myself. So I decided I wanted to put some probably holographic embossing powder over the top of this one, which was actually the first one I did. But I've moved my stamp, so I've cleaned my stamp and my stamping plate off. And because these ones I did do with them pushed into this bottom corner, what I could do is use the one that I'd actually stamped the right way round to line up my stamp again. And again, this won't be perfect. And sorry, my dog's barking at my door. So I think we're lined up. But so I've used the one that's the right way round to line that one back up. And this time I'm going to put Versamark onto here. So you won't be able to see very much. So Versamark is just the clear sticky ink. I can see that. You might not be able to see anything, but there is ink on there. Before I forget, this was done in dye ink and it's been drying for a couple of hours. But even so, I'm going to put some embossing powder on it, anti-static powder on it. Heat it up, embossing powder in holographic. This is really old. And this is a moment of truth if we see if this is going to work or not, because I don't actually know. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I can. I think it's worked quite well. So hard to get it on camera, but hopefully you can see that's now not all over. It's not picked it up very well in some places, and it's better in some places than it is in others. And that's actually worked quite well. Hopefully down here you can see it's worked quite well. I can get the light to catch it. That looks way better in real life than it does on camera. That would be another way to line up if you've moved your stamp, if you've got one that was the right way round and one that was backwards. Same technique, and put a bright colour of embossing powder on top. And this is a heat it up embossing powder in pink. It'll be a bit quicker this time. I think I let it dry too long last time. I forgot to put anti-static powder on, didn't I? That looks like it's worked quite well. So I think it's a bit clearer on that one that you can see that's worked pretty well on there. And I've still got that little white shadow because it wasn't exactly on top. Loads of different options. The Versamark or any other clear sticky ink. So if you've got the Wow embossing ink, I'm sure they'd all work exactly the same. So yes, you can do that with it as well to reverse and use your embossing inks on them too. I'm going to go and make some cards with all these backgrounds, and I think I'll come back to you when I've done all that. I will probably do a high-speed video to show how I put them all together, but it's all just mainly basic card making. And if you want to know what any of the products that are like on the top are, stick a question in the comments and I will get to that, and I'll let you know what all the different things are if you're interested. But it's just stuff I've had in my stash. So lots of fun techniques in there, loads of ideas on how to use the same technique to get slightly different look each time. Obviously you can use any background stamp, and the stamp plate's a really inexpensive way that you can stretch your supplies and do something a little bit different with it. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again in another video very soon. Bye for now.